once again, this time, my friends, for another meet and greet. We're Southern Fried and nationwide, so hang on to your seat. Look around, here's what I found. I guess you'll never know what you'll see on the Southern Fried Podcast Show. Yeehaw.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Dave, what are you doing?
Well, it's been a pretty good day for a Monday. I went in, and it was one of those Mondays I made everybody mad at me, sort of, because I'm like, it's Monday. Yes, let's have
You're
fun.
a sick person. You're a sick person, and you probably wore that shirt too. Oh
I did
my
wear
God!
this shirt. I
You
did
wore a
Monday
pink
and the
shirt
pink
in and
shirt.
tell everybody, "Yay, it's Monday."
And I ran into all the dog fans that were all down. I say, "Hey, how was your weekend going?" Well, the dogs lost. I'm like, "Hey, it was, okay, they lost. Let's have a great day today." So all the dog fans were depressed and wanted to gripe and complain. I went in on top of the world. What's that song? "Walking on Sunshine." Who sung that? I don't remember. That was kind of the theme of my day. If you would hate me for having that song and acting like that.
All right, everybody, let's put a can on this. Dave's way too excited about Monday. Look, it's time for Mama Said tonight.
That's
and
right.
believe it or not, well, I'm gonna go ahead and bring her up. We got a mama to be on the show.
We got a mama.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Let's everybody say hi to Alexandra from the Cornbread Nation and all y'all people out there for the Southern Fried Podcast. Hi. Good evening, Miss Alexandra.
Hi, everybody.
And Miss Alexandra has been reaching out, and Rob, I don't know. She's a wonderful person, I'm sure, but I questioned her, Sandy, because she said we love everything you do, and it's great, And I said I gotta have Alexandra up, and she said I'm all in. Let's go, and I'm like yes, So it was great, and you're here, and it's great, and also John, and appreciate him, and it's just great to meet some folks and have some folks. And,
oh yeah, he's taking a nap on the couch. He's as you know, he's an electrical engineer, and he's been working on projects, and he'll get a wild hair, and he's brilliant, and he'll stay up all night until he finishes. And so he had a long day.
I did it was an engineers type of thing. And hello, Tar Man. And for Alexander, you can see the comments there. You should be able to see the chat.
Okay.
And if anybody gets offensive, we don't usually have that. We'll boot them out. But this is Tar Man. He's a regular. So thank you for saying hello to her. But I was at an engineering type event I think it was last Friday. Anyway, I'm in here with all these guys, and there's an organization down here that says let's have fun. Believe it or not, Rob, they pay this company. This guy he's made it. Like he has just one life. Like he worked for a company, and for the last 3 years he started this company called Let's Have Fun, and companies pay him to bring all their engineers and stuff in and do all these quirky things and let them build things, and the whole time they're having a ball and having fun with it. And it's what he does. He has fun and he gets paid for it. I thought, man, you have made it. Like he wrote a book. I bought the book just because I wanted to see what what the secret sauce was for him. But he's a really, really cool guy. And anyway, I was in there with these engineers, and he'd give them these things to do. And, they're having to build things with blocks and different things. And the last thing they did was they had to figure out how, if you were going to build a water park, and they all had to work together, build this water park. And when you get done, you have to present it to someone. And actually our plant manager showed up. And so at the end, you have to sort of present it like you want them to invest in your water park, like the investors. You're going to do that. So, there are a bunch of engineers. They did all this cool stuff, but they went a little bit too far. Like they called it like the Flaming Inferno water park or something. So like you are in water, but they have flames and stuff shooting up. And the guy at the end, he said, it's engineer humor, but he said, you'll visit once. And if you survive, you'll never come again. But it was, or something like that. I'm like, dude, I mean, they had a kiddie pool that had like flames that would shoot up out of the water and stuff, and it was called the kiddie park, the kiddie pool or whatever. And I'm like, dude, I didn't know you guys were this radical, but they're geniuses. I mean, they see something and they can just build it in their head. I can't do that. I don't have that talent, but it is a lot of work to think. And I've tried to tell Rob this. I'm a thinker. And so I think through stuff and I'm wore out. Rob he's the guy with the chainsaw out cutting the wood and all that. I'm the thinker. He's the doer.
I'm the clickbait on the show.
The
I know. You have to, it only took me 53 years to get this good looking. Well, actually, I'm 39.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I am. Because my mother forbade me to get any older because she was not having a child that was older than she was.
Right. Yeah. And she's still 39, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well, okay.
Mama's always right, Dave.
Miss Alexandra, since it is Mama Said and you're a mom, we've covered a lot on here about stuff, but if you had to think of 2 or 3 things your mom said that sticks with you to this day that you say to your child, what would those things be? Is there anything that you can't, you say it, you don't even have to think about it. It's just there.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. Tell the truth. I think that was always a big one with my mom. And I never, even the things she really didn't want to know, I always told her.
Awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I hope my daughter is the same way with me.
Well, yeah, I've told my granddaughter, and I, of course, she had boys, and I would said the same to them. But to always know that you can come to me.
Yeah,
it might be tough information to hear, but you got to know that you can do that. I'm not gonna blow up. I'm not gonna lose it. We're gonna have to deal with the issue, but know that you can always come, and that's important. I met this. In doing security, I've talked to a lot of people from all different backgrounds with everybody's got a story, but of homeless people and people on the streets. And I met this girl one night. She came up on one of my properties, and you can always tell kind of how long somebody's been on the street. And I knew she hadn't been there long. And long story short, she was kind of looking for some help. The girl it's a tragic story. Parents tell the girl not to take off with the guy. She thinks he's the shining knight. And he takes her they were in Florida. That's where she lived. He takes her to Chattanooga. They have a little argument because they don't really know each other. She just takes off with him. So he kicks her out on the street. She has nothing. So now she feels like she can't go home. She can't call home. I'm sure, they probably had an argument before they left. So anyway, she was, and in my position there, I couldn't really do anything because I have a job to do. So it was nighttime, and she walked up and I didn't know what she wanted. So, and she was saying, I've been on the streets for 3 days. And I said, cause I asked her, I said, how long have you been in Chattanooga? She said, she'd been there for about a week, but she said, I've been on the streets 3 days. Boyfriend kicked me out, left me. I got nothing. I got no money. I got no phone. I got nothing. And so I asked her, I said, do you have parents? And she said, I do. She said, I said, will they help you? She said, well, I don't know. Maybe not now. And I said, do you have parents that are alive? And she said, yeah. I said, let me tell you, I said, why don't you go? Because she said, well, they're mad at me. And I said, well, okay, I'm a parent. I can understand that. Look at what's happened here. Mm-hmm. They said, they're still your parents and they still love you. I said, why don't you? I said, go up the street, get on the phone there. There's a store there. The guy will watch you there at that store. It's a friend of mine. He'll look after you, tell him your situation. Call home, collect. Just your dad. They're okay. You tell them who it's from. Collect and get dad on the phone. Get dad on the phone and tell dad. Say, I've messed up. I just want to come home. And if I said, I know how I am as a dad. Just tell me where you're at and I'll come get you, or I'll send you the money or whatever to get on a bus. I'd just be in the car. Honestly, I wouldn't even wait on all that. I would be in the car going. And I said, mom is going to tell him, yes, absolutely. You go get our daughter, go get her. And I said, when you get home, then you can work out all of that. Y'all got all that drive back to Florida to figure all that out. You and dad, then you get home, you make it up to mom. And, if you got parents, you can always go home. I remember some people might be not, but I think in most cases as a mom, right, you can go home. You've messed up, but you can still go back home.
Mm-hmm. Home is always home.
Yeah, home is home. And we make mistakes. We're not perfect individuals, especially when we're young. And she said, I'm going to go do it. She said, wish me well. I said, I'll do better than that. I'll pray for you. And I said, I'll be around. I'll be up there to check on you. But by the, he was looking after her, and that's what I believe happened is she got he come and got her, and went home. And thank God nothing happened to her, because I said you can't stay on the streets; it's too dangerous. Now, anybody listening from Chattanooga, they people that really know, they know, like, we're not running down our city, but it's a city and there is danger there. There's crime, there's violence, and there's gangs. And she's a young lady, and it's just, you can't do that. You cannot do it. You're going to get hurt. And then to survive, she'll end up, doing things that she would never normally not do. And then the drug use and all that. And then it's going to be, the before and after picture, this was before and this was after, and you know what that looks like. And I've ran into those too, young, 20, 21, 22, just looking like they're 62. And that all happened within a relatively short amount of time. It's very sad. But my mom was always, come home, just come home. I remember a guy in my church, and he was a stepdad, and they had $3, but she had got married, and he was a good man, but they went to Nashville, and they tried to warn him. It wasn't the situation wasn't good. They said, everybody's wanting to go make their money, their million. Everybody's got, some people are dreamers, and it's great to have dreams, but they go and they said, we're going to go to Nashville. We got this idea and we're going to make all this money. Well, it didn't work out. So he calls home, and he's and hawing around, and he's, we're a little bit in trouble here. And it was hard. The ego of guys is hard. And so he calls, and they're talking. He calls him son, which you come into that family, that's what you are. And he said, son, why don't y'all just come home? Just come home. And, and they did. And they got settled, and, they're very successful. Now he works on the set of, he was an EMT. He got to be the medical staff on the set of I think The Walking Dead, I think it was. So they that was a long time ago, but we've all probably had something similar where, we just need a little help, and parents can say, come home. And I'm thankful that I had parents like that.
Okay. That was a horrible, horrible, heavy topic to start with. It was something good to get out there, but let's
okay. We're going to switch gears in a minute.
Let's go to something a little lighter there, Dave.
Well, before you go lighter, the reason we had to start heavy is because we must in every show for the next little bit, we have to reach out to those who have been impacted by the horrible, evil storm that came in and wrecked their lives. And these people are they're trying to recover from, utter disaster. Yeah. And I want to say I appreciate all the people I've talked to. Many who, by the way, had a pastor, I think, Rob, I don't know, I think he was the pastor. It was a church somewhere, and he was thanking me for praying for Western North Carolina. He was familiar with that area and how bad it was in that area, Eastern Tennessee, that area. You could go 50 miles probably inside of Tennessee, 50 miles inside, or maybe more inside of North Carolina. It's horrible, just absolutely horrible. But thankful for all the people that are doing search and rescue. By the way, we have in our county, Catoosa, some of their search and rescue people are out. I don't know what area, but they're out helping. People, organizations are stepping up, city governments. But if watching these interviews, it's heartbreaking. These city leaders, county leaders, emergency management folks, they don't have a lot they can share because they don't know what they're going to do yet. The damage is so massive. It's like, like a bomb went off. There's no infrastructure in some of these little small towns, and they don't have the budget for that stuff anyway. And so the state and the federal are going to have to come in and get the sewage fixed and the waters and the power. Yeah. And, they'll have to get loans and stuff to kind of get back on their feet in disaster recovery. But our heart, thoughts and prayers and all those go out to those folks in those areas. And, we have more storms coming. Rob, I know we don't want to talk about that, but there's more storms coming up the chute, as they say, and one of them's they keep saying it's on the same track. Can you imagine if two storms went basically the same direction with what's already happened? It would be apocalyptic. It'd be like Mad Max in some areas. Just horrible. Now we can go
some way.
Well, in some ways it is. There were some emergency management people showing some pictures today from one of the areas. I think it was in Tennessee. And they said, this is what we're seeing. It was like, just trees down everywhere, roads, covered up, everything's down. It just looks like a bomb went off, honestly, You know, it's like, you remember when Mount St. Helens exploded, you know, out, was that Washington?
I think that was before my time, Dave.
No, it was 1980, wasn't it? Come on. Come on. You were a little younger than
Only
me.
39,
That much. Come on. Come on. In another life, maybe. No, but he, you know, the devastation all the way around Mount St. Helens, you know, that might have been a little worse, but not much. Not much from what we're seeing. So, you know, that's horrible. All right, now let's go lighter. Because I do have another topic that I want to, you know, kind of tags on last week, but it's not as long.
Okay. Well, I want to ask a question, Miss Alexandra, because I know what I was like as a kid, especially at 7 years old.
Oh, Lord, this is a setup.
And my mother knew when I was 7 how full her hands were going to be for the next, 10 to 12 years.
The rest of her life.
Yeah. So how's it looking with your little one?
She is a busy girl. I definitely have my hands full with her. She's super crafty. So if we get an Amazon box or any sort of bag mail, it's a craft. So it looks like there's trash everywhere, but it's craft.
That's cool. How old is she?
She's 7. Yeah.
Has she ordered her own stuff from Amazon yet?
No.
Okay.
I'm very anti allowing her to use technology. So she becomes a different person when she watches TV. And so we have TV, but we really try to stay away from doing it because, it's just not good for their minds.
Yeah. Right. So as a mom and you're shopping and you're going in and of course we've got our roving reporter that, I don't know if you saw that episode where we rode through Walmart asking people questions. That was classic. We'll be doing that again. But as you're rolling through whatever store it is you go to, I mean, what is your feelings about the country and food prices and stuff? I'm not expecting you to say you love it, but what challenges do you see with that? And you know, because I'm sure you shop a lot more than I do, and probably more than Rob.
I definitely shop a lot. I'm very lucky because I grew up with a family that was super health conscious, so I kind of started early with that, knowing and wanting to know what was in my food.
Awesome.
But it's really hard to stay away from now because the most common thing in our food is seed oils, and it's the worst thing that you could eat. It actually causes you to get more sunburn, and it could be linked to such a massive amount of skin cancer that everyone is getting. And
oh wow.
Also just digestive issues, and I don't really know anyone who doesn't have IBS. So yeah, it's just
I'm one of those.
I'm not.
And it's just been recent, but peanuts are my enemy and I love them, but I can't do that.
The
just
peanut oil do that. Everything is not everything, but a lot of the food that we are eating is genetically modified. And I'm not saying that genetically modified foods are necessarily bad, but some of the things that have been engineered in order to allow high levels of glyphosate to be sprayed on our foods are really bad for us.
Yeah. And where we're headed, I mean, and your background is certainly, we're going to learn a lot tonight, and I appreciate that because you're going to educate us on a lot of stuff, and you have, but we're just knowledgeable enough to get ourselves in trouble on a lot of topics. But I would say just from what we're seeing, I mean, it's been trending bad. I think a lot of consumers are more interested in what's in food, and they study that and they look at it. But the problem is a lot of the stuff that's presented. I mean, you really have to probably have a plan, I guess, to try to find the things you need, because more and more of that is the quick, it's more that's what's produced, and also the fresh fruits and vegetables or whatever, what's being put on them. Some of those are coming in from outside the country. And so, certainly you wash the stuff, but there's some things you just can't wash off. And there's like the things they're putting in those things are harmful to us. So it's very challenging for all of us to find that healthy, part of eating.
Absolutely. And I think too, not only food prices, so buying food bulk is not easy. And I don't know a lot of women that like to cook anymore. I think a lot of women have been encouraged to stop cooking, that it's like a sign of weakness. And I really want to bring cooking to be fun again.
Yes.
I was in the kitchen with my grandmothers nonstop, and my mom was a really good cook too, but my mom worked full time. So I was with my grandmothers a lot. And we called both of their houses the Hill because we had one on one hill and one on the other hill. But they were both farmers. One was a bee farmer. The other one was apple farmers.
Oh, okay. Awesome. What real quick down that path, but what kind of apples? I mean, I know there's different kinds, but
so they were juice apples. So they sold to Martinelli's, actually. If you guys have had Martinelli's apple cider.
Yes.
Yeah, my uncles are retired now, but my papa, who had started the business, he was one of the first to start selling to Martinelli's.
Oh, wow. What an interesting
bee farming.
And my dad's side of the family were bee farmers. And then he and his brothers, except for one brother, I guess, they all got into agriculture as well. So my dad's actually an artichoke breeder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, down a completely different path of mine, but it was still agricultural. I grew up, my granddaddy had a slaughterhouse, and I grew up working with meat.
Yeah.
I could take anything from its feet to wherever you want it. And I spent he taught me a trade, and I did it for most of my adult life till I got hurt. But the chemicals and the stuff even that they're feeding to the livestock nowadays.
Absolutely. I know.
Antibiotics, the growth hormones, all this other stuff, it's not good for us.
And they're not supposed to be eating corn. You see the vegetarian fed chickens? You've seen a chicken eat.
Yeah.
Are they vegetarian?
That's
a red flag.
I am not. My wife is. My wife is a vegetarian. So if we go someplace like to Waffle House and she'll get the all-star breakfast and I get her bacon, that's fine. So it works out for us. But like she's starting on a new diet, and we went shopping the other day, and we still have stuff on this list that we have to get. To get stuff that's not loaded down with all this stuff, you're going to pay at least 1/2 to or more in cost increases for getting the stuff that's healthy versus the stuff that's not. There's something wrong there. There's
something wrong.
They want us to eat healthy. You need to eat healthy. You'll be better. But that's going to cost you a lot more than getting all the stuff with junk in it. And we're going to now everything's inflated and blown up. So now you got to pay even more to get the stuff that's bad for you. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And the end result is you're going to have much more healthcare costs because of the people that are, diabetic, or, they start having all these health problems, and that runs, that draws and taxes on the health, insurance. And we're fixing to go back into another round of open enrollment. Costs always go up with healthcare. And, I think government has this kind of a love-hate thing. They love on one side. It's like the angel and the devil. The angel says we don't need to smoke cigarettes, but then the other side, we're going to tax the crap out of them and make money off of that. The sin tax. It's just crazy. And I think we do that with other things too. And it's like one hand doesn't talk to the other, and they make all these great rules, or they think they are. Then on the other hand, they're doing business in a way that's not good for anybody. And I just see it as double talk. And Americans are struggling right now, and when you struggle, I mean, and let's just even go there, because a lot of people are not everybody, but a lot of people, when they are stressed, they eat, and they eat the bad stuff. It's emotional eating, and I'm not saying, I'm really not driven that way, but I know people that are, and they'll go to the store and just buy all the bad stuff as like they're frustrated. It makes them feel better temporarily to get the chocolate or the candy or ice cream or whatever it is, but then they eat that, then they have the guilt feeling of eating all that, and it's just a continual. They're putting their body through this emotional turmoil.
I don't know who you've been dealing with. Let me tell you something. Jenny wants her some ice cream. My wife. You can smell the rubber burning off them tires going up this dirt road right here. She'll go get her some ice cream, and she'll come back. She'll put it in there and eat it, and ain't a lick of guilt. I wanted some ice cream.
Well, there's different kinds of ice cream, Rob. That's not every kind, but I didn't throw that in there on purpose. Robert's looking over his shoulder.
You're going to have her in here straightening you out here in a minute. You even have no idea.
You're closer than me, buddy.
All I got to do is send one simple text or call out and say, "Hey, Dave said you don't need to be eating ice cream, baby." You've had.
I just threw that in there. I just kind of threw that in there. And then where Rob's at, it's there's a lot of farmers and peanuts, corn, cotton, some other corn, different things that. What all do y'all grow down there?
That far, and I can see a cotton field.
Okay.
Cotton field, soy.
15 yards from the house.
Yeah, so fields everywhere, and then the cost of the stuff that they use to put in the fields and stuff, all that stuff is so high that it's really hard to make money.
They have diesel, fertilizer,
agriculture's in trouble.
Pay for insecticide. Cotton has to be defoliated before they can even pick it. So they have to pay for the sprayers, the crop dusters to come through. I'm thinking that's my crop duster symbol. The crop dusters to come through and spray it so it'll die off, and then they can come through and pick it. Yeah. And people don't think about all the steps in it. Peanuts, they grow underground. Now, some people, it's surprising how many people don't know that, but they have to go through. They have to plant them. They have to spray them. They have to keep them watered all summer. They have to go through and dig them. Then they got to go through and pick them. And then they got to go back through and bale the hay up. And you think about all these trips over this fields that they're making, all that diesel, all that fertilizer, all that cost. And now the subsidies are going away and stuff like that. And they're going to run, and all these regulations that they put onto them, that's just more money.
More money
they have to spend. Yeah. And their prices, what they're getting, while the food prices are going up, the prices they're getting are not.
Yeah, no, they're not. And if anything, they're getting squeezed.
Yeah.
It's terrible. And when we need food in America more than ever, our farmers are being punished for producing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this is a recipe for disaster in our country. And then you take in the fact that a lot of our open land and things that can be farmed or maybe is being farmed is foreign owned. And I'm not against some foreign, ownership. I mean, every country does that. They buy things within other countries, but some of what's owned we might be at war with, could be an enemy. And, they own a lot of our debt too. So, I know in Arkansas, the governor there, she took a strong stand to get some of that, but and then how many farmers are going to go out of business? I mean, they're just going to say, you know what, I'm just done with it. And the more that happens, the more it's going to put a squeeze on food supplies, the cost of food, because, supply and demand and everything else. So, and honestly, a lot of food nowadays, Alexandra and Rob, it doesn't look good. Even some of the stuff that, shows up in the store. Now that looks good. Yeah. By the way, what's the name of the dog?
His name's Briar, and he's a Belgian Malinois.
Oh, awesome. I can tell that you're greatly loved.
Yes.
The link to the face, he loved.
But I can go get Chuck Norris for you. Chuck Norris, we got Chuck Norris last year? He was a little kitten. We came out of church and we heard this just meow, 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 meow. And we went out there, and it was a little orange cat, and we already had 3 cats.
Oh.
But he just jumping over everything to get to us, tumbling, rolling. And I picked him up, and I shouldn't have. So anyway, he had a really bad eye infection, and he wasn't seeing nothing out of that eye anyway. So, and it kept getting infected. So when we took him and had him fixed to show our love for him, they fixed that too. So now I've taught him how to wink. He's a good winker. And he'll probably be in here attacking me before this evening's over. He normally does.
Yeah, like a permanent wink. But he does a good job at it.
He keeps his eye on everything.
He does. He keeps his eye on everything.
Yeah. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
So Alexandra, as far as agriculture, what thoughts do you have? Like, I mean, you gave us some information, but going forward, what do you see happening, or what are some concerns, or is there some good things that are happening that we're just not, we don't hear about, we're not aware of from your experience and, your background and things about? Is there something you could share with us and our listeners about some of that? Because I find this topic is extremely important and interesting.
Yeah. Well, I'm becoming increasingly optimistic, especially coming from an area like where I came from, where it's extremely liberal. I'm seeing people come together and stop fighting and and join on mutual issues. And I think we're being told that there's more negativity and bad people in the world than there actually is.
Yeah.
And are there some bad people? Absolutely. I know a handful, but we can all be discerning and stand up for ourselves and stand up for others and serve the best that we can, and really focus on being here right now and doing our best and serving the Lord, and
that's right.
always feeling like He's watching,
Yeah.
So do your best.
Amen.
Yeah, the story, the end of the story is complete victory. So we already have the victory. We're just kind of catching up to that time frame. And for those that are believers, and we know that, then we know the end of the story. We just got and we have this hope and this blessed hope. And we see people around us that they don't have hope. And if you don't have hope, it's very easily to descend into extreme depression and just a feeling of it's over. There's no help, no hope, or whatever. And anybody can encounter that in brief moments. But we still got to remind ourselves that we're living in the greatest country on the face of the planet that has amazing resources, amazing resourcefulness, that this country is still founded on. And most people in this country still believe in values. The moral fiber of this country is still scripturally based. Everything that we do, our laws, everything is still Bible based, and there's still a lot of people of faith in our country. And you're exactly right. We can't agree on everything, but what we can agree on, let's join hands and work together to make those things better. And it's kind of hard if you make friends with people, if you really reach out and build the bridge to people and you become closer and about each other. It's really hard for that to be, to be an enemy then, or because I think sometimes it's just not understanding. And we've met people on here that we are, very different in some ways, but in many other ways, in more ways than apart, we're together. And so some things we just kind of agree that, okay, right now we'll talk about them. We do discuss them, but we don't allow it to become a dividing thing between us. I had a gentleman pull up one day. I was doing security, and I had a African-American gentleman that pulled up, and he was helping a neighbor. And he said he was an educator. He was the first one in his family to go to college. He became a teacher. All of his kids graduated college. His grandchildren, the last one was going through college, and go ahead, Rob. He was, he was, had made sure that his kids had all the tools that they needed to be successful. But then he looked at me and he said something that I just wasn't expecting. And he said, the world, or not the whole world, but he said there are many in the world who want me and you to hate each other. And I said, well, that's true. And I said, but we can't let that happen. He said, that's right. And he said, the only reason they want us to hate each other is so that they can profit off the fight. And he said, we are the same. We are exactly the same. And as we talked, we found out how same we were. And so, he said, it's been great to talk to you. And he said, that's our challenge is we must not let the dividers, the division separate us. We must stand up against that and let them know we're not going to listen to it. We're not going to be divided like that. And the more we do that, I mean, the deceiver loses, and the evil people, as you say, who want to divide us. And community is still very strong. I know, I'm not saying it isn't around the country. I think in many areas it is, but it is still definitely strong in the Bible Belt. It is still community, and people love that feeling of helping, friendliness, caring about people. And we're like a bunch of mama bears, so to speak, down here. We don't like injustices, and we look out for people, and we try to make a difference with that. And so I think that's great that we discussed that on our Mama Said, because that's really what it was intended for, was to talk about, because our moms instilled that. You talked about, moms that worked, and yes, there are those, but there's also moms who stayed at home, and they took care of the home, and they took care of the kids. My mom, for the most part, was at home, and she was, a person of laughter, of music, of teaching me right from wrong, to how to treat others, to love everybody, and all these wonderful Christian, biblical precepts and principles that we should live our lives by. And my dad, he was very much about teaching me the ethics of hard work, to get up and go to work, and defend your family, all those. He gave me that strength, and that rare, and he would look to others, and he didn't like to see injustices for stuff, and he would reach out. He came from a generation that did have some things that I didn't care for, but that's just what he was raised. But in his heart, he really didn't have any enemies, but he was very hard for him because of the way he was raised. But my mom, it was one of those deals where dad says what dad says, but mom on the side is saying, no, this is what you do. This is how you act. We're not going to argue that, but this is what you do. And I was very close to my mom, as a lot of sons are. Loved my dad. He was a model for me in a lot of ways, but not in every way. And it's okay. I've met people that said, I met this gentleman years ago, and I thought, how sad. But he said, I don't remember what election it was, but he said, I'm in a real trap here. And I said, well, what is it? He said, well, our family has always voted this one way. It didn't matter which way it was, but he said, our family has always voted this way, and I don't like the choice that I have. And I said, well, then don't vote that way. He said, well, I have to. I'd be dishonoring my parents if I didn't vote that way. But he said, I don't want to do it. And I said, listen, you're a grown adult. If anything, your parents gave the ability to think and to figure out issues on your own, because they knew that one day they wouldn't be around like they're not now. They had both, died. Mm-hmm. And I said, wouldn't they be more proud of you that you used this wisdom that they gave you? Because things have changed. Your parents, they didn't see things that changed. And this was years ago. And he was just locked into that. And I don't ever want to be locked into something just because somebody says I have to. The only one that gets that for me is the Lord. If he says it, that settles it.
Yeah.
And maybe my wife, Yeah.
Your parents are going to love you no matter what, even if you make a decision or a voting choice that they don't agree with.
Sure.
I make choices. I make voting choices that part of my family definitely doesn't agree with. But you know what? If there are eggshells, you have to step on them and break them, because there shouldn't be eggshells in any relationship.
That's right.
My mom.
Want a strong, healthy family, you got to be strong and healthy.
My mom, I loved her, and I miss her so much. But her husband, my stepdad, Dane, I love him to death. We do not see eye to eye on politics, not even a little bit. And I finally just had to tell him, we're just going to have to take consolation in the fact that our votes are going to cancel each other out every year. It's going to happen, you know. But every time I go to his house, he's got MSNBC everywhere. He's trying just to force all that information right on down. I think next time he comes to my house, I'm going to have Fox up there just to see what he says. I don't like any of it.
Alexander, from your background, you know, farming, agriculture, and the different things you were talking about, was your family committed to voting? Were they active and in paying attention to politics or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, they were very much, my family, they were nonviolent Christians. And so they were very committed to whatever that meant. And usually that would mean to them going, you know, to the left, but it doesn't always mean that, you know?
No.
Yeah. So of all the things you think that shaped you in your worldview, and we talk, and I like the term, the biblical worldview. Of course, that's really what does it, you know, but what do you, a lot of people that they believers, or they say I'm a believer, or they say I believe in stuff, but there's other things that shape their worldview. Who had, for you, you know, or you don't have to give a name, but just kind of who was really shaping you as you were growing up, that you now can see, you know, that it benefits you now. You know, you didn't have to, you know, you could see that. Maybe you didn't even understand it at the time, but they were helping shape your worldview, or maybe it was a biblical worldview, but what was it, or who was it, or was there some things that happened that helped to shape that for you?
Yeah. Well, I had 3 grandmothers in the picture. I had my great grandma, who was Russian and spoke Russian.
Awesome.
And she was extremely outgoing and wild, and she was a Christian and very outspoken, very, very outspoken. And then her daughter, my grandmother on my dad's side, same, very in touch with God. Also quite rebellious, in her beliefs, but very like radical in a good way.
Yeah.
And loved to talk about God and Jesus and the spiritual world and good and evil.
Awesome.
And on my mom's side, my mom's family, or my mom's mother, was Catholic, and she had a different type of belief system than my dad's family. But I found as time has gone on, I've very much connected with her ideas. And she was super hardworking. She was a teeny tiny lady, but she was someone who, if she wanted something done, she did it herself. Wow. I've seen her throw a lawnmower out of the back of the pickup when she was angry, and she's about 4'10" at that point.
So about my grandmother.
Yeah, she was. I feel like I become her more and more every day.
Isn't it amazing? Yeah.
It really is. It's like the longer they're gone, the more you become them. And I'm happy to have her living on in me. Absolutely.
When I was younger, and there was times me and my dad, we just didn't get along. There was differences, because I went through a divorce too. My mom and dad divorced, and there was a heart of that. It just has its hard times, no matter how hard you try. And there was a time, we just didn't talk to each other a whole lot. I was very young. And we restored all that and rebuilt that. We went to church together for many years, but there were a lot of things when I was younger. I just saw them a different way. But as I've aged, and I was telling somebody this has been even, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. It's like even though if I still didn't agree with things that the way he saw it, it was this strange effect where I started seeing it like through his eyes, and I understood why he felt that way. It was very strange. I wasn't expecting it, but I would just see that, and I'd be like, that's why he said it that way, or that's why he felt that way. This is why he had a hard time doing this or saying this. And it's like I can see that now. And when I see young people and they, because we're just full of vim and vigor, and we sometimes we don't want to listen to the wisdom and all. And so because we dismiss some things, we may dismiss too much. And every generation wants to set their own path and blaze the trail. And I guess I was like that in some ways. But I do appreciate that I've lived long enough to see that, because it gave me a great appreciation for things. And as he died at, I think my sister's getting on to me. I think I don't keep up with dates or things. I don't know why. I just never have. But I think he was around 66, 65, 66. So as I get older and approach that time, I just see it. I just see it. And that's pretty amazing. But all those folks have, they've helped shape who we are. And if we want to go back, all the people that their bloodline runs through us, it's in our DNA. It's in our genetics. I mean, all those folks that we never met. I mean, the great, they're here with us. We carry that. And I don't know, God uses that in some special way. I know, but it's just amazing. When you do genealogy, you learn a lot of stuff, and it makes it make sense more. Yeah. Because sometimes we don't even understand why we think or why we do the way we are. When you look back, you go, that's why. Mm-hmm. I see it now.
And then also finding that forgiveness too.
Yes.
Like we can't feel guilt for what our family did,
Right.
So do I understand correctly that you are a product of a divorce as well?
No.
Your parents were together.
Yeah.
And see, my mom and dad divorced when I was young. So me and Dave have that in common. And one of the things I really admire about Dave is he's raising a grandchild. My grandparents took me in, and I grew up with them. So as much trouble as I gave them, and the love never stopped. They raised me. And I'm going to tell you, I was a handful. Okay. I hope David has an easier path. But it's never easy, because there is a generational gap there. What was okay when my grandparents were growing up and what they were used to.
Mm-hmm.
It is the greatest of blessings. It is the greatest of challenges, because on the one hand, I'm like dad. She has a daddy. I'm like dad, and she sees that. We talk about it a lot. We really do communicate a lot. But in another way, I'm goofy grandpa. And so, grandpas want to have, I have to catch myself, because there's times that I'm stern dad and saying, no, we're absolutely not doing that. But in another way, I'm the grandpa who wants to get in the car and go, I don't know, eat candy and, goof off and, be the fun guy, because that's what grandpas can do, that kind of thing, and they give you wisdom, and they, like my grandpa's they like to drive fast, and my mom and dad would have had a fit if they'd known grandpa was, racing down the store at 75 miles an hour, that's what grandpas do. So I have these two, kind of competing voices within me. And, and she gets all of it.
Yeah. I had both my mom and dad, and my dad was always my coach. My mom was there. She worked part-time when I was young, and then she worked full-time as I got older. And she's also in agriculture and is
awesome.
Super passionate about soil, actually. She's an agronomist.
Wow.
I had super involved grandparents, and I don't think that many families have that nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
So not only do we not have grandparents home to help us raise our children, but we also can't be stay-at-home moms.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Because they have to have two incomes to make ends meet.
People want to be able to have children, but a lot of people my age have no support. And no one really wants to put them in daycare unless you have a magical, amazing, lucked out daycare close by. But man, childcare is super expensive.
It is.
And some of them don't even have space. There's not enough of them around. There's people that, this is amazing to me. I heard this a few months ago. I think I told you this, Rob. There were people that they're putting themselves on a list for their child to be in daycare, and they're not even pregnant yet. They're trying to get ahead of it because they say if we wait, we'll miss out and there'll be no childcare for us. And it is expensive. It is very expensive. In fact, some people just quit work and become stay at home and suffer and struggle because they can't, all their check goes to pay childcare. And so it is, you're so great you're on tonight. You see this from a perspective that we see it, but we don't always see it from the full perspective of you as a mom. And I love that you're on here tonight. And the knowledge you have in agriculture stuff is great. You mentioned a couple other things. You said motherhood, agriculture. What was the other two things we said we could talk about?
Mostly those two.
Yeah, mostly those two. You mentioned a couple others. I'm like, we can talk about
motherhood, agriculture, and God.
Yeah, we could talk about it. We can talk about anything. I love it. It's fascinating. And I'll say this. And I know it's true across the nation, but it is certainly true for Southerners because we come from a very agricultural background. Most people in my family were farmers. Some back through the storied history of our family, which is really boring. We're just hardworking Southern people, but some of them worked with wood. Some of them eventually went into work into factories and stuff like that. But we all come from farmers. There's something about feeling that soil in your hand. We have to have that. There's a connection between us and the soil. And that soil is what, for them and for us, but even more so for them probably because that was how they made their living as well as fed themselves. Yeah. So that feeling of having to have your hand in the soil, and you knew from the feel of the soil if it was healthy soil.
Yeah.
And we are maybe losing some of that because of just the changes in society and whatever. Maybe not everywhere, but I don't see it like I used to.
Well, I believe that it's a direct result of our health decline as well, because our gut microbiome and the soil microbiome are very similar and very connected. And the further we go away from having family farms and our kids being exposed to dirt, and then ourselves as adults being exposed to dirt, the less diversity we have in our gut microbiome.
Yes.
Yeah. We have about, 1 trillion cells, like cells in our gut. I'm trying to say the right word. But
some of us, like Rob, might have a little more, his gut might be a little bigger, so he might have a little more. I'm just kidding, Rob. Mine's probably bigger than you is. Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry.
We're crazy.
Microbial cells in our gut, and soils have about 90% more than that. So we only have 10% the amount that soils would have. Wow. But because we're torching our soils, our agricultural soils, with pesticides, herbicides, everything, right. I think our bodies are just mimicking what we're doing to it.
Yeah.
Right. And nobody wants to think about all the stuff but we have to spray pesticides. Nobody wants bugs in their food.
No,
nobody wants that. There's got to be some form of insect control.
Yeah.
There's got to be, as much as we demand from our soils today, even with crop rotation, there's got to be something put back in there.
Yeah.
So, but there needs to be a balance in this somewhere.
There does.
You can't throw all these regulations out at these farmers and run their cost up and expect them to turn a profit and keep growing food and staying in business. It won't work.
It's not possible.
So there's got to be a way where they can meet in the middle.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and around the world, this is not just a U.S. issue, but around the world, the farmers are being forced out, and the cattle growers.
Yeah.
And they're taking their farm. They're taking their property. They forbid them to have more than so much acreage of a farm or so many heads of cattle. And they're then building on that. They'll take that and then build huge apartment complexes or whatever and bring in people from outside the country and put them in it. And I know the Netherlands I've watched a lot of specials on the Netherlands. I know the Epic Times did a good documentary series on some of this a few months back, maybe even close to a year. And it was eye-opening what was going on. But it's not the only place. There's other places that's going into it as well. Is it, do you think from your perspective, and I know when we were in school, which was eons ago, but in school you had all these different pathways, you know, some might be the Future Farmers of America, you know, some might be they worked with wood, or some they worked with cars or whatever. But the ag centers, and I know they're still very active, but do you think in schools that they're, and I know down there because Jason, is he related to Jason, or is he just somebody you know, Rob, that we had on? Is he related to you?
We might be. We're from the same county down here. We might be.
Yeah, okay, yeah. But he actually works for the school. He's paid to, and he works with kids. But I wonder if as many kids are even being exposed to the agri-sciences and stuff nowadays. Is that something that's being kind of lost?
I know in this area, FFA is very strong.
Okay. Well, in your area, I would see that, but I wonder if other areas, if it is or not.
Yeah.
I mean, because because you think about it, a lot of the FFA showing animals, you know, they have hog judging, cow judging, they got, you know, all this stuff that goes in, driving tractors, measuring land. I mean, just about there really is a purpose for FFA everywhere.
Yes.
Because there's not one thing that we use that we don't get from the earth. Not one.
That's right.
It all comes from the earth. So there is a purpose for FFA everywhere. And I think it needs to be pushed out a lot more than what it's getting pushed out.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that requires us volunteering and putting our time into it and pushing our children into it in that direction.
Yeah. Does that include the cryptids, Rob? I just want to know.
Huh?
The cryptids, you know, your favorite word nowadays.
Well, just the chupacabra, Dave. Chupacabra.
I just want to check, you know, inquiring minds want to know, you know, do the cryptids eat out, you know, are they meat eaters?
The chupacabra is not allowed. I done told you this. It's not allowed across into this country. It has to stay in Mexico.
Okay. Are they vegetarian or meat eaters? You know, do they eat leaves, or they?
We've already got. Why we got to go over this?
Because it's important.
The chupacabra is the Mexican goat sucker. It's a vampiric thing. It drinks goat's blood. Chupacabra, Dave.
I just wanted to hear you say it.
Okay.
Oh my goodness, we need to run a commercial.
So, do you believe in Bigfoot?
Yeah, Alexander, do you believe in Bigfoot?
Do you believe in Bigfoot?
You know, my great grandma did see Bigfoot in Big Sur at one point. She saw his arm shaking a branch, and I don't know. She also said that she was Anastasia. So
cool. Your family rocked. What a background. I mean, your family rocked. I mean, not everybody can say those two things like that. Is awesome.
Now I have another question for you.
Yes.
When you eat your biscuit, like biscuit and gravy, do you eat biscuit and gravy?
She don't eat biscuit and gravy.
No, I love biscuit and gravy, but John and I mostly eat meat. So I was going to tell you that I was a little jealous of your meat carving skills.
Yeah.
We don't have a pet, but
do you crumble your biscuit up, or do you just break it in half?
Oh gosh.
For biscuit and gravy.
For biscuit and gravy, am I allowed to put butter on it too?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would break it then, put butter on both halves, and then.
Gravy. Thank you.
Oh yeah.
Dave. She's a Southerner.
That's okay. He's just aggravated that I throwed him on the blast today on all the streams with a video of gravy biscuit and throwed it out there. He had no idea this was. I didn't plan it. I crumpled it up. I did.
Oh.
And we have had so many likes and follows off of that little video.
Well, so you got a new name now.
What's the new name?
I told you earlier today that I had a brand new name for you tonight. I'm the giver of the names.
I've been waiting all day.
Bridges.
Does Alexander need to cut? What did you say?
Gravy bridges.
No, I'm sorry,
gravy bridges. I thought Alexander was going to
sugar
cover
bridges and gravy bridges.
Okay, gravy brick. Well, that's not too bad. I can handle that. That's not
Well, I was gonna do biscuit top, kind of like muffin top, but I thought that'd be a bit much. So I'm just gonna leave you as gravy britches.
We're okay. That's good. That's good. Hey, let's run a couple of commercials, Rob. Give Alexandra a chance to. She might need a break for a minute from us, and then we can refill our
Why don't we
coffee.
take
I'm gonna go
5?
make some biscuits and gravy.
Yeah, be some biscuits
I'm
and
gonna
gravy.
fill my coffee cup up.
All right, we'll be right back, folks. And thanks again, folks. Our guest is Alexandra. Her and John have been watching the streams, and we are so appreciative of this, the encouragement and support you gave, and we're so glad you're here. I hope you'll come back and be with us. This has been great. So open invitation to come up, and we can explore it all in one Mama Said or any other program we have. You're welcome to come in any of them. So we're early risers some days of the week. We do morning shows. We do crazy, weird news shows, as you've seen, and there goes our Instagram. We get them for an hour, and then Friday night Front Porch Talking. So we might have to have a show just about the agri-science. I mean, that we've got experts now. I mean, it's above me and you, or at least it's above me. I'm not smart enough. I don't have enough knowledge.
Maybe we get Alexander and Jason on at the same time.
Who's Jason?
That would be fun.
You said John.
Jason Houston.
Oh, Jason Houston. Okay.
Yeah.
That would be great. Now you remember his name. Yeah, like you didn't know him a while ago.
No. Yeah, I know him. I told you I ain't related to him. Kind of, or I might be.
Kind of.
Maybe.
You probably are.
Miller County, some of the branches are a little higher and some of them are a little lower.
We better behave. We got a lot of followers down there.
Yes.
We're going to be in trouble here. We'll be right back, folks, before we do get in trouble.
You doing the commercial or mine?
You're doing it because you picked on me, so you're doing it.
All right.
You're doing it. You're doing it. Here at the Southern Fried Podcast, one of the blessed things we've been able to do is partner with the wonderful people at Animal Rescue Alliance, Inc., ARA. These folks are a no-kill shelter in Donaldsonville, Georgia. You see the contact info on the screen. And these folks would love to have you come adopt a dog or a cat. They have folks that come from all over the United States, not just the state of Georgia. They're great folks. It's been a wonderful partnership between Southern Fried Podcast and ARA. And we've been blessed to meet some of the folks that have adopted animals from ARA. Also, we've been able to encourage people to donate and volunteer. They encourage volunteers that are in the area, and they're just wonderful people. We'd love for you to contact them, meet them too, go on their website, see some of the animals, and we know you'll want to partner with them too by taking a dog or a cat to their forever home. Join with us, the Southern Fried Podcast, in support of this great work of the Animal Rescue Alliance, Inc., ARA. We know you'll be happy you did. I know we are. The Southern Fried Podcast now has its own store. Go to sfplive.com/store. These links are also found on Facebook and X and some of the other social streams. You will find shirts and hats and mugs and bags and all kinds of items with many different designs. These are just but a few of the more than 250 items that we have with different designs. We hope you'll come and shop, support the podcast. Every dollar that is paid will go towards keeping the podcast growing, and we thank you for your support. sfplive.com/store. Go shop today and get that favorite person in your life their Southern Fried Podcast item, and it'll help us advertise the podcast as you wear these things or take these things out into the public. We thank you for your support. If you have any questions, email us at southernfriedpodcast@yahoo.com. We'll be glad to answer. We're running some specials as well, 20, 25, and even 30% off in some cases. This will eliminate the mailing charges for sure. So go to sfplive.com/store for your Southern Fried Podcast items today. Remember, Christmas is just around the corner. Thank you. Hey, this is Dave with the Southern Fried Podcast. One of the favorite things that we do is sit out on the front porch with a glass of sweet tea and just talk about whatever. That's what you do on the front porch. Wave at the neighbors as they go by, or even a stranger We're friendly people, and we like to just talk about whatever. You never know what Rob and Dave are going to talk about on the front porch, and sometimes Chris joins us, and then you really don't know what we're going to talk about. We'll laugh a little bit, we'll shock each other, and maybe, just maybe, you'll join in with us and chat with us on the front porch. Join us live for Front Porch Talking each Friday night at 7 p.m. That's your friends here at the Southern Fried Podcast.
Oh, he's sneaking back. There he is.
I'm back.
You're on the wrong side.
I'm Arnold. I'll be back.
So
I was, thinking about that commercial and Chris, and that was cut before he went through all these problems. It is so good to see him so back, and he's working on this music for this gentleman he knows, and the fundraiser they're going to do, and he's so excited. I've not seen. I told him, I said, you got that old swagger back. He's so excited. Alexander, we call him the mad scientist because he is the creative genius behind all of the logos and everything we've done. I mean, we get a lot of compliments on the SFP logo because it's so recognizable. I go into streams all the time and they see that, like, SFP, what's that? And they'll say, oh, I love that. And, we can't take credit. We just told him we liked it,
And we also, besides the mad scientist, he's also known as the ugly brother-in-law.
Well, that's what you say, but I don't hear him saying that. But he's a musician. He still has a lot of health problems, but he's a musician. But the mind is still there, Yeah. So he's like a creative force, and he goes into like this back cave kind of thing or something, and he creates all this stuff and comes out, and you're like, wow, And then one day he was throwing me all this stuff, and we still haven't got there. There's still parts that we want to do with some of the program and some of the finished shows and get it in chapters and all that. We're not quite there. We've worked on a little bit of that. When he gets back, he's going to teach me. He was showing me all this one day, and I went, hey man, hold on. I get everything you're saying, but you're out a little bit ahead of me now. Like I get it, but I don't know how to do it. Like, you're going to have to help me with that, and he has taught me a lot behind the scenes. I think there were times me and Chris were probably talking more than Rob, you and him were, but it was all about, because I was working on other streams and we were working on stuff together. And then he got sick. Got sick, man. It was bad. Had to have surgery, but he's doing better.
Chris probably gave up on me a little bit. I'm a bonehead when it comes to some of this computer stuff. Absolute bonehead. Look, I can cut any piece of meat you can get. I can cook, and I'm pretty good at it. I do most of the cooking in this house. Mm-hmm. And, I can grow a garden. I can do all this stuff. This computer stuff, that's like not in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, we were flailing away, and then he says, hey, I got this. My brother-in-law's Chris, and he kind of knows about this. He built a very successful YouTube channel, and then Chris at first was afraid he was going to, I think, hurt our feelings and offend us. And I'm like, man, just say it, man. We can't get better if we don't learn. And so, he would say, well, maybe you could do this or do that. And, some things we did, some things we didn't, some things we just saw differently. And that's what you do in creative meetings. You just figure out, kind of meet each other in the middle, so to speak. Sometimes we gave a little more, sometimes he did. But we can't say enough just how much we appreciate. And we're just really getting started. We've only been around since, Memorial Day? Yeah. And we've grown so much since then, but it is a lot. And there's a lot of people to thank for that. And then we'd be anywhere without listeners like you that have been encouraging to us. And we're finding our niche and kind of what we want to do. And looking forward to just being more community and the world around us, and looking at, how we fit in it and how we can be better. I was thinking as a mom, not as a mom, I can't think as mom, but as you as a mom, and you have a young girl now, what are the things that you think of as, because we all have that, concern. As I heard my wife say today, she calls my youngest son baby boy. So that's what we call him on here. He was headed to work and she said, I love you. And he said, I love you too. And she said, but I still worry about you, because he'd had some trouble and he's doing great, but that's a mother's love, just that concern. But what are some things, not that your daughter's doing, but what are some things out there that are predatory to you? You see the monster on the horizon and you've got to guide her through that. What are some of the things that as a mom, you could share with us that, you think about, and you're trying to head off or make sure that it's, she's not exposed to it or something like that. I don't know if I'm crafting that right, but just from your thoughts, what that looks like as a mom.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a lot of things out there. You had mentioned manners. I know that's like a mild way to put it, but I think there's a lot of rudeness out there that extends further. And it's not quite bullying, but it's just cruelty from unhappy people.
Yes.
A lot of it comes down from teachers or leadership or whatnot. I really like her school. And I'm very blessed and lucky to have the school that she has. However, yeah, I do see it in some of the parents, and then you see it in some of the children and how they treat the other children, and then what they teach the other children, because children can traumatize other children based on what they were treated like.
Yes.
Good.
And there is
That's a great point.
As much as there is so much good in the world, there is definitely a lot of darkness that concerns me in this time. And I don't want any of it to affect my daughter. And, I'm afraid that it already has. And how do you know until they're able to tell you about it? Because they can't even really tell you in their own words until they're older,
Yeah, that's just today. And I take a lot of kids to school, and I hope I'm not, I don't know if there's a parent listening or not, and they're great, but I get to see them in a different light. My granddaughter's one of them, and then there's others, and some of them have adopted me as because they don't have a grandpa these passed, and they're great kids. But like all kids, including my granddaughter, they test boundaries, they hear things, they repeat things, and I've never had this happen before. But this morning, one of the kids, and I don't want to say on here, boy, girl, or anything like that, but one of the kids got out and I guess totally was locked into that world of dropping off at the school. This is middle school. They were all just, there's 3 that I drop off and at one and 2 at another, but they got out, head to the school. And I don't even know what they were talking about. I was, just trying to pay attention to driving and not run over kids, that important stuff, And as one of them got out of I drive a church van, and one of them got out and said something I couldn't even repeat on here. And I went, hey, it just totally shocked me. And they looked back like I guarantee they don't even realize that they did that. Don't even realize. And
they don't know what it means, but they need somebody like you to tell them that it's wrong. They need somebody to tell them it's wrong.
So I've been sort of praying all day about, the best way to handle it. And because there is, it's so, this is one of the things I struggle with. And there's no perfect parenting. There's no perfect parents, but if we try real hard, but one of the things you said there was, children traumatizing children. And one of the things I've noticed in counseling with a lot of adults is that for whether they meant it or not, every kid, every adult can go back into their childhood, or most can, maybe not every, but most can. And there's something that traumatized them. And I'll guarantee their parents or their grandparents didn't even know. And it could have been a remark. It could have been, they said something about their weight or how tall or short they are. You never know what's going to be tucked away in the inner being. And, I want to make sure because at middle school age, which is so hard on that age group for children, so hard. And the issues are it's a great school, but there's a lot of issues. And I've talked to a lot of parents. I want to make sure I handle that in the right way, and that you can't start yawning or we'll all be in trouble here. Robert will pass out over here as yawning, but it's challenging. And there's bullying that goes on. There's definitely bullying. There's fights. And sometimes the teachers are not on the caliber I think they should be. Some they knock it out of the park, so to speak, like a home run, and others don't. I talked to parents, and one parent I talked to, we had because we had a school shooting in Georgia, which you probably heard about, but there were threats that went all the way through the state because copycats. And so one of the parents called me one day because there was a threat at the same time, Rob was getting the schools down in his area was getting threats. I was getting
Yep.
our school was getting threats, and it was all just people copycat. There was no real threat, but they tried to scare everybody. But a parent called me and wanted to know if I'd heard about it, and I said I had, and we were talking about it. And and this is not the only one. I've heard these stories, and these are good people, good, honest, moral people raising their kids. They're great. They're involved. It's mother, father. It's not broken home. And they have siblings and they work hard and they're active in community. But one parent says, I don't know if you're dealing with this, but my daughter all of a sudden lies to me all the time now. And I don't know where that's came from. Lies to me. I've caught her in so many lies. And we never had this problem before. She's lethargic. She comes in and she's not, kind of withdrawing. And there's other parents that have said similar things, and it is concerning. I mean, what's going on, and not in every school, but in some schools at that age group, what's happening and what's affecting these kids, because this is a pivotal part of their, growing. I mean, at 12, 13, 14 years old. And it's concerning. I don't know, but there are things I see out there, and I wonder are they going to be okay? Or are they going to, not, rise above it? Is it going to consume them? And you hear those horror stories of kids, social media, everybody has access to the social media, just about all the kids.
Yeah.
In some cases, unfiltered in some cases. And that's alarming. It's become the babysitter, so I don't know. It's scary to me.
Yeah. That definitely scares me too. Because sometimes we don't know what they're being exposed to at school. And
sure,
when I first started taking her to school, I was able to walk to her classroom every morning, and now we drop them off at a chain link fence. It's not like it was. And I appreciate the safety, but I want to walk my kids to her classroom.
Yeah.
And then you don't know as much as what's going on, and they're allowed to hide things now. And I do think that there's some leadership issues within the education system in the United States.
Yes.
I am so glad you said that. And I wasn't even thinking that way, but you actually absolutely hit a landmine there that needs to go off. And in different states, there's different rules. There's different things that go on. What is they're required legally to report to parents, and some things they don't have to report or even told not to report.
Yeah.
That scares me, because parents may not know that their child is in trouble, and they're masking it and covering it up from the parent, and feel like they don't have to report, or they have a legal out. That's scary. I don't know how we got to this point. And I know in one way they would say, well, there's parents that are abusive and whatever. Well, if they're abusive, take them out of the home. But why, if it's that abusive, I'm not talking about then you get the definition of what is abusive. Is just because they don't believe in the ideology, or they don't, want their child morphing, changing, whatever, into something they don't believe in. But that's the problem we have. But yeah, are you kidding me that a child could, in some states, a child could be pregnant and the parent's not going to be told?
Mm-hmm. But that's been for a long time. That's been for a long time, especially with like administering birth control, things like that. The parent doesn't need to know, which is, birth control can be life altering.
Sure.
It's hormones. It's terrible for you, especially a young woman who's developing.
Yeah, that is incredible. There's just great challenges. We're going to have on a friend of mine, and my granddaughter's still in public school, and we're trying to, she enjoys it. At times she gets frustrated, but she wants to be with her friends. She wants that social experiment. But there are some parents that have had to take extreme measures because there were things that was being introduced to their children. And I have a friend, he's going to come on and do an interview. He's not going to name the school or anything like that, but it's his journey with his daughter. Yeah. And he met with a school. There were things that he didn't like, and he didn't get satisfaction of that. So no anger, no nothing. He just says, my daughter's now not going to this school, and we're going to change schools with her. And he put her in an online Christian school. I'm not going to name it right now. I'll let him do that if he chooses to. And he said it has been the best thing. She is flourishing, and it worked for them. It may not be for everybody, because everybody's situation is different, the ability to even finance that or whatever. But for him, it was the best thing that could happen. And every time I see him, he just talks about how great she's doing. And so parents have to be parents. They have to figure out the path for themselves and what works right. And I guess just as parents, we're always got the radar antennas up, and we hear things, sense things, we sense things, what's going on. And I just think important that you keep the communication open to the child and sit down and just talk,
And it's so important to remember, like, we're raising these little people that are half of ourselves.
Yes.
So like we were talking about us carrying things on from our grandparents and parents, and they're doing the same thing. So nobody's going to know what's better for them than us, because it's okay. Yeah. We're not projecting onto our children, but we know what's best for our children. We brought them into this world. Obviously it was by God's hand, but
absolutely.
But yes, they're our responsibility to care for, and we cannot shift that responsibility onto anyone else.
Amen. Amen. And that is so important. We have a responsibility. I talk to people all the time. I want to tell you two quick things. And one thing is I love to talk to, and I address, of course, obviously I'm not talking to females in as close as I would males many times, but in general settings, you can say things, but sometimes I just a guy, we're sitting talking, and I can see he's immature. He's on the wrong track. He's got kids. And I will say I love to say this. I love to say it. It's because they absolutely fall for it every time. And I'll say, that's great. You got kids. You got how many? 3 kids? That's great. I'll say, do you know what your number one responsibility is as a dad? And I love to see what answers I get. And they'll say, well, make sure they're fed. They got clothes, they're protected. They're going, you can see it in their brain. They're going, check, check, check. Yeah, got it all. Doing good. Tan their little hide if they're not doing good. Okay, check, I'll say, well, that's all got its place. That's all good. Yes, you need to do all those things, but I said, you've missed the most important thing. And they'll say, what? And I'll say, you are the caretaker for these kids for God. Mm-hmm. And you must lead your children to God. Yes. And they walk right into that every time. And I'll say, listen, you're never going to forget this conversation. You can be mad at me. You can never talk to me again. You can think I'm a lunatic, but you will never forget this conversation. God has put me and you together, and you're going to now remember this. It is your responsibility. You have to do that. It's not the school's responsibility. It's not your neighbors or other friends. It's yours, and it's not YouTube. It's your responsibility. You're the dad. Get busy with it. And you know what? Some people actually take that to heart and have changed. And I try to do that in a loving way, but sometimes you just got to, I call it shock therapy. You got to just shake them out of that immaturity as a young dad. You know what? And I had that happen for me. Sometimes as a young dad, I wasn't doing those things like I needed to. You need somebody to come along and say that. But, when you're talking about, kids and, what they say and they see, they're appreciative. They might rebel against it a little bit because there's that rebellious nature, that sin nature. But kids see that, and there's always that thing you kind of have that inner smile when you're going down the road and your son or daughter or grandchildren or whatever, and they'll be talking about somebody else, and they'll say, I was talking to these kids today, and they were telling me, these things they do, and I would say, well, my and she calls me Papa. She said, my Papa would never allow me to do something like that. You need to not act like that. And she likes to tell people, I get these big eyes. We always have these verbal signals we can give our kids. For me, it's the big eye. And she'll tell kids, she'll say, don't do the wrong things, because it gets the big eyes, and she'll try to get me to do it. And I'm like, no, that's just for special occasions, But my dad gave me that same look, I'm like my dad, and he'd give that look. We've talked about it on this program, but they are looking at us, and they're copying us, and they're mimicking us, and it's going to save them from a lot of trouble. And there are other kids out there who don't have that. It's just, It's wide open. I mean, the kids are running the home. I mean, they're saying what they want to do. I saw this one day. It just broke my heart and made me angry at the same time. I saw about a 5 or 6 year old little boy who was bad mouthing his mama and daddy all the way out of the store.
Mm.
And when they got to the car, they were trying to give him things, treats to get him to come to the car and get in the car. He picked up little rocks and threw at his mother. Now, Rob, we know what would happen to us if we did that to our mom.
Oh, yeah.
You wonder how little boys become abusive to women. And it's because daddies let them treat the mama like shit.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, and I was sitting there shocked. And I had to like, how in the world can you just stand there? And there's that part of me, I wanted to go, stop. You can't do that, you know? But that is the problem, man. Like you say, you go to school, they're around things like that. And I've said this on the program, and I'll say this, and we'll move to another subject. But I've told my granddaughters, I said, any guy that you're going to think about dating, going out with, or whatever, I said, when he takes you around his mama, watch how he treats his mom. If he doesn't treat his mom nice, there is no way in Hades he's ever going to treat you nice. He might in the beginning, but it's all a fake. Watch how he treats his mama. And you can take that to the bank. If a man will not treat his mother right, there is no way he's going to treat his wife right. I just don't see it.
That's right.
You know, it's not biblical, and there's no way. And my dad was very firm about those things, and you know, they've been instilled into me, and I thank God for it. Absolutely.
That's right.
You know, and I mean, it's like all the kids that have seen abuse, you know, the man, it might even be the husband, but this live-in dad of the moment who's smacking his mom around, and you know, what damage is being done. You know, it's they've seen it. I mean, they've seen it, or they've been allowed to go down that route, or it's music, it's culture, it's movies or whatever, and they're exposed to things. Yeah. You know, I've seen that in kids, you know, and you try to catch it early age, and you know, be the adult in the room and say, you're not going to do that. I've had kids tell me, they would say, you can't tell me what to do. You're not my daddy. You're not my grandpa. I say, well, you're at my house, and you can either follow the rules or leave. And they've never been told anything like that before. You can tell there's this look of shock. Mm-hmm. And they'll say, what? And I would say, you can follow the rules or you can go back home. But when you're here, you will have respect. You will not backtalk. And I take it to a really small level. A lot of kids, and it's slang, a lot of kids say, yeah, it drives me crazy. Yeah. And I refuse to allow that with kids that I take anywhere. And I don't have to say anything. I'll say, yeah, like a question. And if they don't pick up on it right away, because some of them are a little newer, my granddaughter will whisper back there, you're supposed to say, yes, sir. She coaches them, you know, she becomes the coach, you know.
I like that.
But you know, I said, when the other day we had one of the kids and we were going somewhere, and mom was working, and they talked on the phone, you know, the mom and the daughter, and she was respectful and all, but when she got done, she just said, it was yeah. And she hung up, and I said, you meant yes, ma'am, right? And she go, oh yeah, I forgot. Yes, ma'am. I said, well, you know, I heard that, and you've heard that, but she didn't hear that. And she's like, well, what do you mean? And my granddaughter picks up it real quick. She said, you need to call her back and say, yes, ma'am. And she said, oh, okay. And so she calls her mom back. She said, but she's working. I said, well, listen to me. The way you ended that conversation, I said, if you call your mom back, even though she's on the job, and you mentioned, I think it's at Waffle House, Robbie mentioned Waffle House. She's working hard. That Waffle House crowd, you know, Rob coming in, the barbarian, you know, and having to deal with somebody like Rob. And so I said, call her back and tell her that. I meant to say, yes, ma'am, mom, I love you and all that. I said, you will make her day.
Oh. And
she calls her up and she says, hey, mom, sorry to call back, but I wanted to tell you that when I finished up what I was going to say and you said something, she said, I meant to say, yes, ma'am. And I don't know what mom said, but it obviously was very touching. And she said, I love you too. And she said, I'll talk to you later. And I thought, now that, how good did that mom feel?
Yeah.
that her daughter called back and
Well,
said
she'll
that.
be coming back to your house.
So, but we got things to work on because the very one that said that said some words today, and so we got things to work on. Yes, it's a
Good.
constant battle. It's a constant battle. But you know
I
what?
think she'll keep coming back because she needs
I love it.
correcting. She clearly wants it.
You
Now,
know,
we were going to do
that's a
an
great point. Go ahead, Rob.
thank you. We were going to do an interview yesterday, and the gentleman we were going to do the interview with was sick, and he couldn't make it, and that's fine. Life happens. But it was going to be like on homeschooling, and we're going to try to get that rescheduled, I believe.
Oh, it's definitely going to be rescheduled.
What I would is that an option in your area?
It is, but I'm a little bit newer to this area, and I also work full time. I work about 9 to 12 hours a day.
Right.
Bless your heart.
Being a stay-at-home mom is not an option for me right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Otherwise, I would be doing that. 100%.
What my thought on that is as you get to know people in that area, maybe if one or two parents kind of took over in that area and would do the homeschooling at their home, and maybe everybody get together and maybe subsidize the ones that are doing the homeschooling.
Yeah,
because
there is
darkness.
homeschooling networks. I mean, I know some people that do that. So if push comes to shove, there's definitely
like we were saying, there's so much darkness going on in a lot of these schools. Especially at some of the tender ages, like when middle school. A lot of these kids are just starting puberty. And that is they're going through a whole lot of changes physically, mentally, and socially. And it just seems to me like a lot of darkness sets in that time frame. And it would be wonderful if maybe check into a homeschooling network.
Yeah, I'm going to keep looking because I do know, I've looked and I've definitely been watching some groups develop, and I've called and met with some, but it still hasn't quite worked out. But I'm going to keep trying.
A lot of them, and they do great things. They'll take them on field trips, just like the school does, and they immerse them in history and civics and all the stuff that sometimes they're missing in the school. And the thing with schools is they have great potential, but the problem is everybody's teaching to a test. I mean, they got to pass the test and the milestones and all that, because all the raises, all the money, it goes back to money. And I'm not saying that there are a lot in that. There are learning, and they're learning mathematics and all that stuff, but it doesn't allow you to be to diversify as a teacher and use the God-given talent. I think that God's given teachers to do things that, because when I went to school, I mean, there were teachers that was just amazing, and we learned little things from different teachers, and you carry that through life. I mean, I was thinking, I said this at church here a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, and this area of respect. And it's funny, no matter how old you get, like you become an adult, your teacher is always going to be Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so. You just don't start calling them by their first name. That is your teacher. You see them at stores. Hey, Mrs. Robinson, how you doing? You never get on that level, because there's a level of, and I was preaching on the elders and having the respect for elders, not just, parental elders, but church elders, but elders in general, people that are older and have wisdom, and they've been a teacher in your life of some way or some kind, and you show that proper respect to that. And that's certainly biblical. I mean, you see that through the Bible, that there is great respect given to those who have been a mentor to you, or a teacher or coach or whatever it is. And so the more we can immerse our kids into that kind of learning environment, just the better it's going to be. I think for the most part, they do get that. I listen to the kids, and they do get that. I never see them just, I don't know if you've heard this. I'm not bad. My dad it would have never happened. This idea of kids calling their mom or dad by their first name. My dad,
so weird.
I know people that do that, and I don't know where that comes from. It's like, that was daddy or dad or father, depending on culture. But I know my dad's name was David too. There is not any scenario in this life that I could imagine myself walking up and going, "Hey, David."
No,
that would have never happened.
His name is Dad forever.
Yeah, his name is Dad. It's an honored name, Dad.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
I don't get that. You know, Dad or David or.
Yeah.
I said that in church once, and I had some people look at each other. Apparently, I stepped on some toes, but they took it well because apparently they must do that. And I was like, I don't know where that comes from, but I just laid her down that day. This is it's not respect, and I'm sorry. I see some looks out there if I've stepped on your toes, not meaning to, but I just see it as a level of respect, and I'm sorry. I'm not gonna change. I can do that. Hey, before we run out of time tonight, Rob, last week, Miss Alexandra, we did song titles that have mother or mom in them. This is very challenging, but I want to, do you know of a musical group that has mother or mama in their name? Because it's not as long of a list, but does some group come to mind in current or history that had mother or mom or mama in the title, the name of the band?
I can think of some songs. I can't think of a band.
Definitely songs we could think of. I've stumped you. I could only think of 2. I looked up, I found 5 total. There might be more, but I did find
a common one.
There's actually a current group that's called Mother, but there's a 60s group and there's a 70s group that definitely fit this bill.
Okay.
There was a group in the 60s called the Mamas and the Papas.
Oh, yes, the Mamas and the Papas. But they ended up having ties to Manson. Did you know that?
Really?
Yes.
Didn't know that, but it's not surprising.
No.
Not surprising, the communal thing and all that.
Well,
what a thing to drop on a Monday, Mama said.
Sorry.
Alexandra just come here dropping bombs. I didn't know that. I really didn't know that. I mean, I've read a lot about them, but I didn't know that. Wow.
I've got a good book list if you want it.
I definitely need it. And then there was a group. It's still around. They're still around. They're probably none of them original. There's a group called Mother's Finest. You remember them from the 70s, Rob? Mother's Finest?
That's before my time.
Oh, come on. Before your time.
The only ones I remember from the 70s is Elvis and Casey and the Sunshine Band. I loved me some Casey and the Sunshine Band when I was a youngin'. Okay? I did. Still do.
I do love Elvis. I still love Elvis.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've got a really good Elvis impersonation. David doesn't like it.
I think we need to see it.
I don't know that I've ever seen it.
You're hitting nothing but a hound dog.
Oh, he has done that.
All the time. What do you think? It's pretty good, right?
It's pretty good.
It's kind of weak, Rob.
Easy, Dave. Easy.
You're more Colonel Tom Parker than you are Elvis, man. Come on.
That's not very nice. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I need nice lessons. My mom was a huge Elvis fan. She there used to be a tapestry that hung on her wall for years of Elvis, and there was only 2 times when I was growing up that I got to stay up past my bedtime during school. One of those, I don't know why my mom let me do it, but it was the TV premiere of the movie The Poseidon Adventure. If you remember that, Gene Hackman, and there was many kind of lesser known stars in that movie, but the boat turns over. For some reason, she let me stay up and watch that. I guess I bugged her. So I don't know, but I wanted to see it. She let me. But Elvis, what was it? The show he did live. Remember that? It was worldwide. It was like 1973-ish. Live from Hawaii or something like that. Anyway, she let me stay up because she was a huge Elvis fan. My dad didn't like it. He didn't care for Elvis, so he went to bed. And me and Mom said, I think it was like going to go 30 minutes or an hour past my bedtime. So she said, no, he gets to stay up tonight. We're watching Elvis.
Dave, I was like 3 then, so I wouldn't remember it. And I promise you, Miss Alexandra wouldn't remember it either.
Well, no, but it's historical. I mean, you look back and it's like, you know, you do a Wikipedia or something. I mean, you would see that it was a worldwide event, and for the time, I think it set records. So don't give me that.
What? I
We
was
don't even
thinking.
have a vinyl of like the Hawaii Elvis.
Oh yeah.
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 Mhm.
So Alexandra, did you like any of his movies? Have you watched any of his movies? And if you did you have one that you really like from the movies? Because just sometimes people don't agree on. They didn't like the movie. Some loved them.
Give me the list again.
Of his movies?
Yeah.
Oh, it was a
Oh my
bunch.
goodness. Well, you know, he had Love Me Tender.
I'm
No, he
thinking
had,
of like I love South Pacific. I loved a lot of musicals.
Right.
oh, she was an Oklahoma fan, Rob.
Oh,
I guarantee Oklahoma was yeah, I knew it.
I saw. I did.
Rob's,
That was the
my
only
mom loved
solo.
that.
That was the only solo I had all the way through high school. Was OKLAHOMA, Oklahoma. Yeah, it was the only one I had, and it made people's ears bleed. It was wonderful.
Should have done it in your Elvis voice.
I should have. But they wouldn't even let me hardly do it in my real voice. So, okay. I know we're talking about movies and stuff, and we're talking about Elvis movies, but I really have a question here.
Okay.
What was the first movie that y'all saw in the theater? That you went to the movie theater to watch?
It was Snow White. And I was really little. I was probably 3. My parents took me to see Snow White.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dave? Snow White?
Mm-hmm.
Dave?
No, wasn't Snow White.
I mean, it was like a replay,
No,
obviously, but
Yeah. Dave?
No, I wasn't there for the original, but no, it wasn't Snow White. I'm sure. I'm not gonna say I'm sure, but I'm sure that my mom probably took me to the movie before. But I have 2 great memories, and they were both around 1974. I was 9 years old, and I don't know why my mom. My mom was great. This probably wasn't the best movie to take me to see. One of them, and went with my sister was a baby. Remember the other one because my mom had to take her out, but she was a baby and go to the car. But I'll tell that one first. We went to see the movie Earthquake with Charlton Heston and Lauren Green. You know, LA's in a massive earthquake, and they had the seats rigged in the theater to shake and vibrate when the earthquake was going on. I was scared to death. I was like, "Wow, is this thing? Are we having an earthquake?" And my dad's loving it, like, yeah, you know. So the baby was crying, and dad's giving her the look like, you need to take the baby out. So she missed it. She had to take little sister to the car. But mom took me, and it was mom, her sister, and she had a daughter. We all went, the 4 of us, to a theater, and this is crazy, but it definitely left an impact. But I got to see the original Walking Tall in 1974, Buford,
Wow.
the story of Buford Pusser, the sheriff of McNair County, Tennessee, around that Savannah, Tennessee area. And, that was a story, based on his life of things he did as sheriff. That was a powerful movie. I don't think my mom knew everything that was going to be in that movie because there was definitely things there that I didn't need to hear or see. But at the end of the movie, I cried. I cried. It was so sad, because his wife is killed. His, it's just sad. It's very sad. But I can remember Johnny Mathis is singing the ending song and all that. Him looking out the back of the police car. It left a profound image in my mind. So it wasn't Snow White.
Oh.
But I really didn't go to a lot of movies. We really didn't do that. We did more like just go. We did things that we weren't. I mean, we had all the things we needed, but we were kind of poor. We didn't really spend money on going to movies. We just did free things, You go to the lake, you go window shop, you go down and have. I mean, back then you could go to a place and have ice cream and I don't know, a burger or whatever. I mean, you could for $1 or something. It was, so. We found ways to just entertain ourselves, and really we stayed at home a lot. I mean, I was out. Me and Rob were raised in the time that we were outdoors all the time, running through the woods and playing with our friends. And so Going somewhere sometimes wasn't the fun things to do because our parents was taking us to see our aunts and uncles on farms and stuff, and they put us to work. So, you know, it's like, can I stay here? No, you're going with me. We're going to go help pull, you know, dig the taters or something. I mean, you know, I enjoyed that, but it was a lot of times we were going to help family move or whatever. So, you know, we didn't.
I think that's good.
Usually, it is good. It was good. It's good.
Makes the child feel needed and like they're a part of something.
Sure. And I definitely felt that way. But I can say this, we were on the lake. Speaking of that way, we were on the lake swimming. It was a very hot day when we did hear that Elvis had died. And I will never forget that. Me and my mom coming out of the water, and my dad tells us we thought he was joking. Like, no, he didn't die. My mom was devastated. Absolutely devastated. My mom lived through a lot of trauma in her life when she was young. So I think the music of Elvis just, it gave her, you know, it uplifted her spirits, so to speak. She just my mom loved to dance. She loved to sing. And so she was always about laughter and having a good time. And I think that, you know, she went to this, you know, this is before my time too, Rob, but the sock hops, you know, and stuff, that was really big in her youth, you know, the 50s and stuff. She was born in 44, I think it was. So in the 50s, you know, she was, you know, doing all those kind of things. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
If you had a decade that you know, God put us in where we were supposed to be, but if you had to pick one other than the one you were born in, what decade would it be and why that you would think I'd love to have grown up in that decade? Rob, I'll put you on the spot.
I was born in the 70s. I'm perfect content to have been born then.
You know, you can't play that game that way. I said, you can't choose the one you were born in. I said, if there's one that you think that would be cool, what would it be? Come on, Rob, play the game.
1800s.
Okay, but what era of the 1800s? I mean, that's a wide range.
Well, let's see. Back before electricity, but after the inventions of the firearms got better. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, that kind of narrows it down a little bit.
Yeah.
So moving past the flintlock and.
Yeah. And I would have liked to have been a dentist in South Georgia.
Oh, so you're wanting to be at the OK Corral? I mean,
yeah. Let me tell you something.
I get it. Awesome. Doc Holliday.
Yeah, he was awesome.
As a dentist or as a gunfighter? Because he wasn't a great dentist.
Both. Oh, I'm sure he was a good dentist.
No, he wasn't a good dentist.
They didn't complain but once.
Well, yeah. I mean, you could go to school in a few months and become a doctor back then. I mean, you know, or a dentist or whatever. So brutal. By the way, medicine advanced. Let me let Alexandra say it. Alexandra, what would you say if it was and we don't want to know your age, so we don't say the decade, but if you were to pick one in the past, or you could even say the future, we don't know what it holds, but what would it be? What would be the decade that you think that'd been cool to live in?
Yeah. I mean, I've always really liked like Jane Austen and Charlotte Bronte. So I always wanted to be on the English countryside and like late mid 1800s.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
The Victorian period is a big draw for a lot of ladies when they look back, because I used to be in the Civil War reenacting. We'd have the balls, everybody gets dressed up and they play the music of the time, and you get out in a barn somewhere and you just lose track of modern conveniences, and you have this dance. It's just really cool. They play the songs of back then, and the ladies love that part, getting in all their, you know, they make the dresses themselves. I mean, you know, sometimes people have them, if they don't really have that flair, they'll buy them. They're very expensive, but most of them want to make them because they have the image of what they want it to look like, and what in their romantic, you know, mind of what, you know, what it would have been like to wear that and live during that time. So I think for me, 1800s as well, but I would probably say 1870s or 80s, somewhere in there, I think is probably a great time, because we got past the war. Things had advanced, medicine, because of the war, medicine had advanced to a stage, and although it certainly had lots of room to grow, but I kind of think around that time, 1880s, that's probably what I'd say. I think that was pretty cool. You know, my grandfather on my mother's side was born in 1895. It's not that far of a jump when you think about it. Although we think of it as being a long time, it's really not that long of
No,
a
it's
jump
not.
back to that time for us. Now, in 200 years, if we're still, if the world's still here, then it's a little longer. But for us, it's only, 150, 60 years back to the war between the states. I mean, it's not that long of a time when we think about the grand scheme of things. It's really, I met, and I think I've told you this, Robert, I met a real Confederate, the son of a Confederate soldier. He was from California, matter of fact. But the reason was there was a lot of them. I think all of them are dead now. I could be wrong, but I think all of them are dead. But these veterans, they got a pension late in their life, and that pension was a lifeline. And the South was so poor that a lot of daughters were married off to these very elderly, ex-soldiers, and for survival. I mean, they couldn't feed them. That's how bad it was.
Right.
That's why I think our talk about agriculture and how quickly things can descend into chaos. You let the food get in trouble, and it's bad things are going to happen. Well, people were starving to death during that time, and they had children. And so I met this guy from California. He was very elderly, and he was shocked at the housing prices in our area at the time. Now he probably wouldn't be, but he said, "Yeah, I'm the son of a Confederate soldier," and I was like, "This is amazing." He never knew him, obviously, but just the fact, because he died before I even really remember. But it's just amazing. You think about that. They lived really long lives, and I've met those folks. So it's just fascinating, I think, for that. But a lot of people look back. It's not as romantic as people think, but there were things about it, I think, that were pretty neat. Robert, living in South Georgia, there's a lot of that Victorian top homes that are still.
Yes, there is.
You can go see. In fact, you went and saw one. You got the picture there, I think, of Rob went and saw this home, which is neat. You can tour
This
it.
is the Lapham Patterson House. It's in Thomasville, Georgia. And if you'll notice, the third-story roof is in the shape of a fire helmet from Chicago. The guy that originally had this house built survived the Great Fire in Chicago, but his lungs got damaged. And he thought living among the pine trees in South Georgia would actually help his lung problems. But yeah, it was beautiful. I've got some pictures from the inside too that I've got them loaded up, and I'm going to do a show on it. But I don't know if you can actually see. This is the pamphlet they had. And I don't know.
You can see the flooring and stuff. That's
the flooring. It's made out of heart pine, like lighted pine. And this guy was scared to death of fire. And I don't know if you realize just how flammable lighted pine is.
Yeah.
But he really loved the look of it. And the walls, it's all lighted pine except for he had his main chimney fireplace had two chimneys because he thought the heat would go up two different ways and it would be safer. And he had a walkway and a banister area there where you walk up, the stairs went between the two chimneys and up on this walkway that was made of black walnut.
Oh, wow.
And then it goes all the way up to the second story, then on up to the third story. But it is absolutely beautiful and amazing. The whole downstairs, they want to capture the feel of the outdoors, and there's no straight lines in nature. So all the windows were higher or lower. The doors were higher or lower, and there no straight corner, no 90-degree corners, no nothing like that. And it's pretty neat to walk through. It's awesome.
I love like the craftsman houses.
Yes.
It seems like people put so much care and time and attention into the details.
Absolutely. And that was built in. They said it was built for. Let me see here. This was built in 1885, and it's still standing. The lighted pine and all. I'm trying to remember how much they said it cost. I think it was like $400 to build it.
Wow.
Something along that lines. It wasn't, but in those times, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot.
There's still quite a few of houses like that around the South that are still there.
Yeah.
There's the Hay House, I think it's called, is in Macon, Georgia. I've been to it, and there's just a lot of them throughout the South. We've lost a lot, but
yeah,
there's a lot of them. If you go down and look at on Louisiana, on the coast or near the coast, was damaged somewhat in the hurricane, but Jefferson Davis home there,
yes.
It's still standing, and you can tour that. They had to reduce some things because of the hurricane that came through there, but there's a lot of them. Sadly, we do lose some sometimes because of fire, lightning strike or something, and things that happen. But I think that's neat. We can step back in time and see some of that.
Yeah,
things. So I like
it is like
I like history. I like that.
Yeah.
So you was talking about your before we get off there. Now you was talking about your family having a Russian background. Have you ever been to Russia, or have you ever?
No,
passed down of the culture or anything.
Yeah, no, it was just my great grandma. But I'm mostly like Irish, Italian.
Yeah,
really a mix.
I've definitely got the Irish,
Spanish.
Yeah,
so.
Got a lot of different streams going there. That's interesting. Yeah, those things that make us who we are. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
As I said, Robert's a barbarian. He has a barbarian background.
Yeah, I'm Irish. I'm Irish.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's calling you a barbarian.
Yeah, we're both Irish.
So he's calling you a barbarian too. Don't forget that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, that's not nice. See,
no way.
It's nice.
No way.
Something I've always wanted to try and I've never tried. And as a butcher, I promise you, I would try it. I want to try haggis.
What is haggis?
Oh, it's all the innards shoved into a sheep's gut.
I don't know.
Yeah, you got to try it at least once.
I think I'm out. I'm out, Rob.
You're 39.
Huh? That's right. I got to try it someday. I got plenty of time. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait a while.
I don't care what my background is. I'm out.
You let us all know when you try it.
I'll do it.
Yes,
I will try it.
Please do a video of that.
Let's make sure that I am correct. Haggis.
Yeah, he might be making all this up. I've never heard of it.
You've never heard of haggis? Traditionally,
no, I haven't.
Traditionally, it's made from sheep's heart, liver, and lungs, and can also be made from lamb, beef, pork, or venison.
John would share that with you, I'm sure.
You would share it with
me? We got to come back. We got to meet. We need to meet John.
I would.
Okay, we got to try it. We got to try it.
Next time you come on, we got to have John. We got to meet John too. So
yes, we'll try it. We'll try haggis. We'll wear kilts and we'll try haggis.
I'll make him some haggis. Haggis.
Yeah. Haggis. Haggis. Haggis.
I'll try to cook some, and I'll make him some, and you guys can try.
Yeah, we'll try it on air. And Dave, we'll get Dave to try it too.
No, I will watch. We do have an important question before we get off here. Is Alexandra? Have you ever tried grits, and do you like them? Eating grits?
Oh, yeah, I've had grits. I mean, with butter, I can really do anything.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh, have you ever had cheese grits?
I don't know if I've had. I like cheesy hash browns. So.
Yeah, but if you get like a sharp cheddar and put it in your cheese grits, oh my, yes, yes. If you ever make it to Thomasville, go to a restaurant called Jonah's.
Okay.
And get shrimp and grits.
Okay.
Shrimp and grits.
Oh my goodness. They have been nationally recognized because of their cheese grits.
Okay.
They come with their shrimp. And oh my goodness, it is. Oh, Jonah's.
Okay. When we go through there sometime.
You do. And we go over there every once in a while. There's also several plantation houses over there that you can tour besides the Lapham Patterson house. And if you go through there, because there's a lot of history with it, And they generally, the Historical Society over there does a good job of putting the history out with it. And it's a lot of the history is absolutely amazing. You would love it.
Yeah, well, let me help you out, Alexandra. Some of this history he's talking about, what it was is the carpetbaggers came back south with all the money because nobody had money in the South. Well, they built these homes, and that's how they got there. Some of them, not all of them, but the ones he's talking about, carpetbaggers. Come on, Rob. Tell the whole story here.
Hey, they do tell the whole story.
They made a beautiful home. They made a beautiful home.
Yeah, for $400. They put $400 back into the economy. Yeah, yeah. And think all the people they hired.
That's why they took it from them. So, carpetbaggers. Come
on. I'm still going to go to them because they're still.
Wait a minute. You're starting to sound like the opposition down there in Bainbridge about this monkey facility. No. We don't. Jobs ain't always important, man. Come on. What?
Have you heard about that?
Yeah, we're going to have to get caught up on that.
I don't know. I'll have to.
Trying to build. It started. I brought it up to Dave as a joke. I tend to sometimes just throw something out there at random, and it just blows Dave's mind. And it may be 100% true. It may be 50% true. It may be 0% true. And just to see what kind of reaction I get from him, I'm trying to throw gas on his fire. And so I brought up one day, I said, Dave, we grow we grow everything down here in South Georgia. He said, really? I said, yeah, we're fixing to start farming monkeys. And he was like, I know this is BS. You could see it in his face. I know he's throwing me a total on. Yeah, okay, whatever. But I already had it pulled up, and I was just waiting. And he was like, whatever, and he's trying to catch me and asking me questions. I said, well, I've got it pulled up. Would you like to see? He said, yeah, I want to see it. So I pulled it up on screen. And he was like, you can see it in his face. He got me. That's real. That's a real thing.
Yeah.
And
it's sad.
It's actually sad. We've done our research on it there. It's not a good thing. They snuck it in. So
I'm not for animal testing, especially on primates. And I hate it for them because, it's a legal thing right now. They're waiting on the legalities get out of the way, but it's really, really ugly, a really ugly story. So, but yeah, we're not for it, but we're willing to give everybody a say, and bring them on the air and talk about it. But just personally, we're not for it, So anyway, well, hey, this 2 hours has flew by. Thank you, Alexandra, for coming on. I do hope we've been good hosts with you, and I hope you'll come back. We'd love to have you and John come back.
Yes.
And please be a regular because you bring a lot to the show, and you've got. I mean, you bring a perspective we don't have, and that's great for us. And hopefully, we bring some perspective. I don't know if we do or not, but we try. And we thank you for watching. Thank you for the kind words. Y'all been very encouraging.
Yes.
And it means a lot to us. We say that with all sincerity from the bottom of our heart.
All right. Well, so we're going to do a front porch talking on Friday. And that's pretty much open. Anybody that wants to pop in, feel free. You and John pop in. We got to meet John anyway.
I'll let him know.
Yeah, let him know. We start at 8 and we go to whenever. So it's a great show. Just send us a message and say if you want to come up anytime. Just you see us on, send us a message. Okay. You'll come in.
We'll do it.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you soon. We don't have a morning show tomorrow. I may be on. I don't know yet. But Wednesday morning for sure. Hump day.
That's right. All right. Y'all have a great day, and y'all made it through Monday. Congratulations. Have a great first week.
That's right.
Luke.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Well, once again, it's time, my friends, for another meet and greet. We're Southern Fried and nationwide, so hang on to your seat. Look around, here's what I found. I guess you'll never know what you'll see on the Southern Fried Podcast Show. Yeehaw!